Hello. I'm going to give it a second so people can join. Hi, everybody. I want to start with the intention setting of love. Heart-centered, heart-focused conversation. I want to center the intention of humanity. I want to center the intention of possibility and imagination. That's what my intention is for this conversation. I feel a lot of energy coursing through me. This happens sometimes, I guess, when I'm about to speak. When we're about to have a conversation that I think is important. So I'm taking deep breaths. I would like for you guys to breathe with me. And deep inhale. Put your hand at your heart center and let it out. Take a deep breath in. And let it out. And one more breath. Let it out. I want you to set your own intentions for what you want to get out of being here today and joining Rasha and I in the conversation. Rasha is a new friend of mine. We just met yesterday through Dream Defenders. We did a live yesterday calling our representatives and just kind of talking a little bit about the situation that we're all watching happen and unfold in front of us. Thank you, Mia. I said my intention is to learn. Yeah, can you guys drop your intentions of why you're here today, what you would like to leave with? Anyway, I'm going to get back to Russia. They're an amazing organizer and Palestinian voice in what is going on. So I wanted to get her perspective, for her to come on here and be able to talk to you guys a bit about what's going on. I think it's really important throughout this entire process to leave heart space open for understanding history, perspective. There's a lot of really dehumanizing rhetoric going on right now. And it's really, for me, it's incredibly heartbreaking to see it's nothing that I wasn't aware of already, but it is still so heartbreaking to consistently watch people that are proposed like leaders, who call themselves leaders, just consistently violate our human rights and our right to speak, our right to spread truth amongst each other. And I just find it really sickening, if I'm being honest. It's been 33 days now. Today's the 33rd day of watching a genocide in real time. And I know everyone is watching because that's what they do. It's what we do. And I feel like, I've obviously been speaking on Twitter a lot. But I feel like I posted stuff, but I wanted to have like a dialogue. I wanted to take this outside of the little boxes that we're in and bring some humanity into it, right? I feel like when we watch these so-called journalists that are completely bought out and completely washed, and so many self-interested people in positions of power, just completely ignoring their duty, which is expected, because this isn't it isn't like it's built on anything of substance or credibility, if we're talking about that. We walk around and tote being the prescribers of democracy and human rights, but we are an endless death machine. And they use our money, guys. I don't know how many of you guys are in the United States, but if you are in the United States, your tax dollars are directly contributing to everything that's happening right now. And that's why we're talking about it. People want to be like, it's too complicated, it doesn't make sense to me, why should I give a fuck? I love my Starbucks, why would I give that up for some people I don't know or really care about? Like, if you find yourself in that kind of energy and that's how you're speaking about this conflict or this moment, I would say this is a moment in humanity. And let me tell you something. I have seen people reveal themselves. Hi, Rasha. I'm gonna take a second to like compose. It's really hard for me to talk about this without crying. Because the silence, the complicity, the active propaganda and silencing. Because there's silence and then there's silencing, which is different. It is wild to see. It is wild to see in a place where everyone is talking about freedom. Oh my goodness. Where everybody's talking about freedom. Mija. Mis amores. Aquí no hay nada de libertad si no se puede hablar, si no se puede conectar, si no podemos confrontar la verdad. We're not crazy. We're just not. So I'm about to let Rosh in so that I just accepted your request. Yay. Hi.
Hi, my love.
Hello. Welcome.
I'm holding your tears and
I'm sorry. I'm emotional,
what?
Shadi.
Don't for a second apologize. Do not.
I'm a water sign and I really sincerely I have a lot of mom energy in me. So like I'm not a mom for real yet.
What's your water sign? I'm a Taurus, so earth sign.
I'm a Cancer.
Oh God. That makes so much sense.
Yeah, I'm a Cancer and I'm a Scorpio moon too. So like all out water.
Oh.
What about you? You're a Taurus, and what's your?
I'm a Taurus, stubborn bull. I'm gonna keep fighting for this justice.
Let's go.
For all people, for my people, your people, all people.
Amen.
I come to this space, Lauren. So I appreciate you working with me here. One of our organizers, our beloved organizers out here in Central Florida, Lemia Mukaddam, just got arrested and detained at a direct action. And I'm coming to this space, carrying her legacy right now in this moment, for the Florida Palestine Network, and trying to get that bail fund. And basically Florida Palestine Network and the organizers were out there boycotting and protesting C4ATS, which is one of the weapons industries that are sending weapons to Israel. And so it's a good to be in this healing space as, you know, yeah, we process that. And, you know, we're going to be meeting her outside when she does get booked. So thank you so much for
wow. Well, guys, like, I mean, look at this, like in real time. Like in real time, this is like the state and just this entire, the active silencing of people who
we were
are,
just talking about it yesterday, the repression campaigns.
Yes, the repression campaigns that are happening right now. It's actually, to me, it's like a little terrifying, like because if we're really, it just kind of bursts the bubble, you know, like people like you and I, of course, have the bubble's been burst. You know, we know about Dream. We're with Dream Defenders, like we understand like what's going on. Like, amazing organization. If you guys aren't tapped in, please tap in. They do amazing work to like restore rights and make sure people are taken care of. Also, I don't know, you of course know probably about the Bail Project, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, this
so,
is good.
No, I was just thinking like in terms of making sure that her bail gets taken care of, like I'm sure that they would love to help with that. Like,
I mean, we protect us, right,
exactly.
Lauren? Like, this is how it works.
Exactly.
Organizations like Dream Defenders, USCPR, all these organizations, people literally putting their bodies on the line because they understand that this is what it takes to become free. Like we were talking yesterday, freedom, the fight for freedom and justice is not comfortable. We have to sit in this discomfort. And Lauren, I love about you, you're like, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is easy. Speaking truth to power. This is how it should be. You know, more than just a ceasefire, like we were saying yesterday, and the genocide and the military aid, all of the above, and.
Absolutely. I mean, the whole entire conflict, essentially, right? That we're talking about, this thing that they make so obscure and mysterious that people can't attain this knowledge, they can't understand this knowledge. It is colonial knowledge. It is things that have happened, and all we ever get is the perspective of the people doing the colonizing. That the quote unquote victors. Because to me, a victor is not someone who annihilates a whole population in order to get what they want. To me, victors are people who understand how to coexist in peace and for people to be harmoniously in a space so that there's no harm done. And right now what's happening is an occupation of a land for 75 years, for 75 consecutive years. And yes, there's been back and forth, moments of potential peace, moments of, you know, of rejection of treaties or whatever. But I think what is always missed in these conversations is the acknowledgement that this is no one else's land to begin with. This is Palestinian land that we're talking about who deserves what of. And therefore, the Palestinian people are the ones who should be setting the terms of what land is divided or what, if they feel like doing so. Because at this point, Jesus, like, I mean, at this point, I'm not sure how anyone's really feeling about that. But you know what I've learned from the Palestinian people is that they are not, like, they are not asking for the destruction of people that already exist. They are not asking for anything besides their own freedom on their own land from occupation. And if you look up what apartheid is, if you look up what genocide is, not only are international communities across the board in 100% coordinates of the, like, in agreement of the fact that there are war crimes being committed, that a genocide is happening and has been happening for the past 75 years in a very slow, progressive way. And that this is, as the Holocaust was, the final project. This is the moment where they completely annex all of the land that they have already stolen via settler colonialism. And this is where we watch in real time as they march people out of their homes, bomb them and their children in front of the world. Okay. And then we also watch world leaders who are profiting off of these war crimes, okay, turn the other cheek and choose to censure people like the only Palestinian woman in Congress, like Rashida Tlaib. All of these European people who say outlandish racist things on a regular basis in the halls of
Speak,
Congress, who are
speak.
insurrectionists, who have participated in domestic terrorism, okay, and are still sitting and uncensored, okay? They want to take her words, her own words from her own experience, and twist them to the point where they silence her.
That's right.
Okay.
All
All of these things
that,
are a part of imperialistic power. And
that's literally,
connect
you,
dots.
you hit it on the nail. Yeah, people are slowly starting to connect the dots. And for people understanding, people like you, that this is beyond October 7th, what the root of the violence is, like you said, 75 years of occupation and oppression, 16 years siege on Gaza.
Could you tell the people more about what happened 75 years ago so that they understand the history of this? For people who don't know.
What we're seeing is the slow genocide of the Palestinian people happening and moving in a rapid way. So they have been slowly trying to massacre the Palestinian people, but we first had the Nakba in 1948, where Palestinians were expelled and forced out of their homes, out of their lands. If they stayed, they were murdered. So Palestinians are actually the largest refugee population in the entire world. So not first time, not second time, third, fourth time refugees. So much of the Gaza population have been parts of different Palestine. So they represent all parts of Palestine. So when people say Gaza is Palestine, it's because so many of the people in Gaza are from different parts of Palestine. People are indigenous to the land, to their homeland. So Palestinians have been fighting against 75 years of illegal occupation and oppression. Palestinians have the right to return, according to the UN Resolution 242. Millions of Palestinians. So that's why when you meet Palestinians in the diaspora, you can feel the resiliency. That's why when you hear people from Gaza, the Palestinians in Gaza, saying they will not leave, you see the doctors singing that they will not leave because they're not trying to leave their homeland or be further removed from their indigenous land. So Palestinians and our relationship to our indigenous land is so important. So for 75 years, Israel's genocide, like you said, this is rooted in white supremacy. This is the book definition of settler colonialism and imperialism, is to occupy a land, occupy a people, and this happens to Black and brown peoples globally, right? So
in
the
America,
system,
here in the United States, every single day. Right now, let me also make a connection. Elijah McCain, his murderer, it was just acquitted and not guilty of murdering him, even though we saw and heard his murder.
That's right.
Every single day here in this tierra, to the indigenous people of this land who have been annexed into or pushed into reservations, into food deserts, who are not granted the same rights. It is an active thing that's happening as we speak, and we don't talk about it. And we don't talk about what we've done to them. And we don't talk about what we're still actively doing to them. We are still kidnapping and murdering indigenous women all the time.
That's right.
We are still stealing their kids and putting them into re-education schools. That is still a thing. And that was a thing. And it will continue to be a thing if we don't talk about shit. And that's why we're talking about things and making these connections between what's happening here, what's happening there, what's happening in Sudan, what's happening in the Congo, what is happening in Tigray. Like, these are things that are, all of these things serve this genocidal, murderous machine that is the military-industrial complex.
That's right. It's all a business transaction for them.
And that's the thing, and that is the key of it all, is we have to understand all of the politicians, all of the Democrats, of the 22 Democrats who voted in completely just disgraceful manner to silence their colleague. They were all being paid out. All
That's
of
right.
these,
I mean, the numbers show.
Lobbyists. Then this is what we have to understand, is as long as there's money in politics, we will always be in subservience to the decree of the elite and the people who are out here trying to just do what they want for profit, because it's at the end of the day, it is all for profit. It's all for more land, to be able to have more, to be able to continue. Because by the way, it's not going to stop with Philistine. It's not going to stop with Philistine. It's happening it happens in Libya. It happened in Syria. It's happening in Syria right now still. It's happening in Lebanon. They want to take everything, and they're going to continue to want to take everything, because that is the way of an empire. That is the way.
And that's exactly how it works. These systems that were never meant for us, these systems that were meant to debilitate, murder, dispossess, and displace Black and brown people within the US and outside the US are actually doing what they are meant to do. And the further advancing of genocide, like you said, is not new. This is something that's been happening it continues to happen. And specifically with the Palestinians, it's been happening for 75 years, but they've moved in a more rapid way that is massacring a whole people. And they're able to do it, so there's a covert and overt, and they're able to do it because we've allowed them to.
Yes. You good?
Systems, they're funding it, they're resourcing it, they're encouraging it. The media, we have the media misrepresenting, sharing misinformation, unverified information. So every aspect of it is that they have you believing, like Malcolm X says, the oppressed, like they are the oppressors, and the oppressors, like they are the oppressed. And it's wild that there's arms up on around 40 fake babies that were beheaded, but in reality, Palestinians being murdered, raped, and executed and bombed every single day for 33 days is now they're trying to say it's collateral damage. It's all part of war. No, this is not a war. This isn't genocide. This is ethnic cleansing. This is how they're trying to erase a people, literally remove them from their own indigenous land, separate families. Literally, this intention of what we're seeing is to sever the bloodlines of generations of Palestinians, to wipe out entire families. We're not trying to do land acknowledgement at Zoom meetings years from now. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have to continue to fight for all people. And like you said, when we're able to fight for Palestine, you're able to fight for all issues. Don't think for a second if they're coming for one group of people, they're not going to come for another.
They never will. Endless.
No.
It's truly endless for them. And I think it's also really important, like we're talking about the propagandic nature of what we're seeing. It is absurd to me that we need to take everything that the IDF or Israel releases as hard fact proof, which is pure propaganda and easily disprovable in almost every circumstance, that included with their long history of lying and circling back something. And they've done it literally since the beginning of this entire situation, even down to what happened the exact day that we're saying everything started, right? Like you mentioned, the beheadings of the babies, these are things that were completely disproven, not only by everybody, but, but by the people who said it, know, on top. And so when I continue to receive information from people to discredit or to try to dissuade unwavering support for the Palestinian people and what they are going through, and for the immediate call for a ceasefire at bare minimum, on top of the calling for the
scratching the surface, Lauren, like scratching the surface.
Yeah, it is indisputable, because it is indisputable by international law, which even these powers that be have discreetly put into their statements. Oh yeah, we're cool with this as long as, they're going by international law. And, as long as it's in accordance with international law. They say that because that's what they use as the excuse when they go into places like Iraq and kill 1 million innocent people. Okay? Because it was 2 war crimes were committed, supposedly. And that's what validated their ability to go into Iraq and just completely decimate an entire country and people, just out of sheer will, because that's what they want to do, because there was profit for them. You understand? And so
they uproot a people, they disrupt a community, they murder them, and then claim that they're trying to save them.
Then they pass judgment, they gaslight, they completely demonize and dehumanize the population that they're trying to annihilate, which is, by the way, a Nazi tactic from World War II. Okay. This is exactly what it is, subhuman. Every single politician that I've seen has either completely denounced or discredited the source of Palestinian death, and or has referred to Gazans or Gazans,
Palestinians
Palestinians,
in Gaza,
Palestinians,
because they're gonna try to weaponize
right,
like.
Palestinians as subhuman, as human animals. First of all, not only is that completely just disgusting, right, atrocious off bat, but second, like on a human level. But second of all, why are you treating animals like this too? Are you out here bombing kittens and dogs? Because I promise you, the white women would be in arms. You couldn't
Right.
just do that. You
And
couldn't
then
just be bombing
then
a whole bunch of dogs and
when we
kittens and
talk
that's
about
not.
repro rights too, like you got the cats and dogs, but then you have the people that are like, they claim that Palestine's one issue, that it's not local, and but in reality is, stop making Palestine a one issue thing, because it is not that. It is not a foreign policy issue. It is absolutely a local issue. If you care about repro rights, if you care about people experiencing houselessness and homelessness, or people not having access to healthcare and Medicare, or people that are trying to cancel student debt or end gun violence, all of the above, and we're sitting there sending billions of dollars to displace, dispossess, and murder of people. It is absolutely a localized issue. Repro rights. 50,000 Palestinian women are about to give birth in Gaza that don't have access to anesthesia, hospitals, any kind of medical aid. Who's to say that the baby or the moms are going to survive any of that? You cannot be for these issues and claim to be progressive except on Palestine. That's not how it works.
You know who my favorites are, though? I'm not gonna lie, are the people who talk about being pro-life. I love you people so much because you are the epitome of hypocrisy. You are walking, touting, poster people for hypocrisy. And I don't have to say anything. Your existence says it. Like it's absurd to me that you can value life to the point where you will take women's own bodily autonomy rights away from them, but you don't support life to the point where you will fight for people who are in our faces being murked on a daily basis and in front of a camera. We're watching people be completely decimated, like, and it's disgusting. Things that I've seen are.
How do people see these images? How do people see these images and this footage, and and still justify it, or call it a conflict, or call it, something that is complicated? It's actually quite simple, right? The solution is quite simple. One, ceasefire now, and the genocide and the occupation. Stop occupying a whole people. Stop stealing a land, forcefully expelling people off of their land, moving into their homes. The solution is quite simple. And people, they have been, one of the first things that oppressors are able to do, if they're successfully able to win the narrative, then they've already won, right? So they've been able to win the narrative in claiming that this is their right to self-defense, this is their right to exist. The fact that they've been able to dehumanize Palestinians so much that people will be able to see this vile footage coming out of Gaza and in the West Bank and still not be able to comprehend that this is humanity, that these are people's Palestinian lives. We haven't even talked about the dreams that have been shattered, the aspirations that they wanted to live out their wildest dreams, or who they wanted to become. Some of them haven't even seen over that wall. The siege on Gaza has been 16 years. The Gaza population, 50% of them are 18 years and younger. Like, Palestinians were not born to be murdered or displaced. Like, Palestinians should be able to live, and to live with dignity, to experience love, to be able to just exist in ways that are not in their imaginary, that they can actually practice and feel, touch,
and in their own land. They deserve that own land. They deserve that in the land of their ancestors. They deserve that in the land of olive trees. They deserve that in the
And
land
it's
of it.
olive tree season. It's olive season.
And that's why they're doing it too. Like it's psychological torture as much as it is physical torture, and it's not. They don't keep it a secret, and that's why it's so easy for me. Like I said, to know what side, what like it's not even about sides. It's humanity versus inhumanity. Period. Like it is
Guys, this.
inhumane. It is inhumane to dehumanize people to the point where you can't even see what we've been seeing and take a second to be like, oh, this is kind of fucked. Like, this is kind of like really messed up. And wait, my tax dollars are doing this? Like, and you know what's
Mm-hmm.
interesting too? I find it really disheartening sometimes when we talk have these conversations and like Jewish folks get thrown under the bus in this convo because they're claiming to be an ethno state of you know pure Jewish people, but like that's not the reality at all. You know, like so many amazing Jewish folks have come out in full force,
Our biggest allies are
bodies
the
on
Jewish
the line.
people.
This is what I'm
Yeah. So,
saying. Bodies on the line for what's happening because they understand that this is what happened to their ancestors.
mm-hmm.
This is the cycle of oppressed and oppressor. And you know, if you don't take the time to heal after going through something this crazy, so traumatizing, so violent, okay? If you don't take the time to heal from that, if you're not given the time to heal from that, like most of us are not given the time to actually the time or the space or the tools to understand the impact of the kind of violence that so many generations in the diaspora of the world have experienced at the hands of colonialism and imperialism. We don't have those tools. We're not doing that. And so what happens? Some people learn for the better and make a promise to themselves that they will never perpetuate that same violence. And other people internalize that violence and then use that same violence as their own tool of becoming an oppressor themselves, or moving in such a way where they are in full allegiance to these same systems of oppression that caused all of the terror and pain and fear and awful you know, outcomes of the hatred that comes from these experiences. These are human beings moving through these moments. These are people whose whole entire families are being taken from them in real time. These are people whose lands are being stolen from them in real time. Like, if you can't do anything else, just take 1 second to visualize yourself in their position. And this is what I tweeted the other day.
Ella.
It's ridiculous that I have to say this, but if you and your family right now had been born under the circumstances where you were in Gaza and you were the ones who were in the current situation that you were, would you or would you not ask with your whole heart for a ceasefire? Would you or would you not need a ceasefire in this moment, need the allowance of humanitarian aid in this moment, not these humanitarian pauses for 4 hours that they'll agree to maybe before they continue bombing the shit out of these people? Like, no, like an actual stop, like an actual, you need to stop murdering people because you want what they have, and they're a nuisance to you because you can't complete your idea of what this is supposed to be for you. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
And
It's not even a negotiable, debatable thing. It's a fact.
it's
It
just
is.
like unfathomable that people can't even comprehend it from a humanitarian aspect.
At
Like,
the bare minimum. At the bare minimum.
the bare minimum is to save lives. Step one, save lives, call on a ceasefire. Step two,
30
end the genocide of the
days,
Palestinian people. So there you and the occupation of 75 years, 16 years siege on Gaza. Free all political prisoners,
all of
all
them.
4,000 of them, all of them, and that's it.
And
Like, and also,
by the way, that's another thing that's really important to point out. Even Israeli folks, like who are over there right now, there are so many people who are like, this needs to stop. Like, this is not right. Even the people who do have hostages over there, they're like, hey, we want an exchange. They're asking for an exchange. Give us back our people, and we'll give them
right.
back. They have over 10,000 people imprisoned right now with no real charges, political prisoners, hostages as well, Palestinian people
And
as young
the
as
Palestinians
young
in
as
Gaza are being
2
held
years old.
hostage for 16 years.
Yeah.
The Palestinians in Gaza hostage 16 years. Like there's no way in, there's no way out, there's no airport. They're literally, the calorie intake is calculated. They are literally starving to where you're hungry, you can't think, you're thirsty. They didn't have access to clean water before October 7th. They didn't have the freedom to move, the freedom, any kind of freedom. So when we're talking about peace, we understand that there's no peace without justice. We understand that there's no justice without freedom and liberation. And that is why, to our core, we understand that when we say no justice, no peace, that Palestinians have a right to exist, that Palestinians have a right to resist, and Palestinians have a right to live in dignity. We mean it all. So that's why what is so frustrating, and that's why I love you, Lauren, and I can see everybody loves you too, is that
Wait,
people,
sorry, what? I couldn't hear you. You like broke up. Say that again.
Sorry, I was saying this is why I love you, is because you understand it in its totality. Because people try to do this balancing dance or have this asymmetrical language to a very real power dynamic that we're seeing. Palestinians are oppressed. Israel's oppressor. It is backed by US unconditionally. So trying to have this balanced act is actually what's conditioning people to believe and accept that the last 12,000 Palestinians that have been murdered is acceptable. Had we come out with different language and say that Israel's oppressor, Israel needs to be demilitarized, that Palestinians need to be free, and the siege on Gaza needs to be lifted, and occupation needs to end, I truly believe that Palestinians, these 12,000 Palestinians, at least in the last 33 days, could have been saved. But the people that had used conditioning language to accept and think that there's two sides, or that
it's complicated. So complicated. We just don't know what's going on. We couldn't possibly know. We couldn't possibly listen to fucking Palestinians or even Israeli historians who will tell you the same exact thing. Okay, anybody who sincerely is aware, or we could go to human rights organizations. We could go to Amnesty International or the UN, or just anybody, or Al Jazeera, you know what I'm saying? Like, just, outside sources outside of bought American media, United States, a media propaganda machine. If you look outside a single source, you will see the truth with an abundant clarity. With abundant clarity. There is no confusion on what is happening. There is no justification for what is happening. There is no question or argument for what is happening. There is a brainwashing that took place for a lot of people, and I understand why a lot of people are in that space. I understand that a lot of people's survival is intrinsically tied, and their identity is intrinsically tied to the idea of the state of Israel. And I understand that to a degree, right? Because at a certain point, you have to be a human, and you have to step back, and you have to realize
and reevaluate.
There is no excuse at this point, I feel like. And I think it's something that's deep that a lot of people are not willing to look at. And I understand it.
They're not willing to stay in discomfort.
They're not willing.
You have to be.
I reposted something today that was like, accountability feels like an attack when you're not ready to realize the way that you have harmed people. When you're not ready to sit with the facts, when you're not ready to sit with how you've harmed people, it feels like an attack. It feels like an attack to be held accountable, because you're not ready to sit with the fact that you've been completely complicit in the murder and in the starvation of a people, a spiritual, an emotional, a mental, and a physical starvation of a people, of an entire people. And they program their foot soldiers to believe a certain reality about them, and it's what they're programmed with. And I understand that that's hard to break out of when that's everything that's around you.
That's the work that they have to do. right? Like
Exactly. But
the
that's the
work that you
thing. That's
have to
the work.
unlearn.
That is the work of dismantling white supremacy. It's we have to dismantle it within ourselves and actively be agents against it in our own realities, in our own families, in our own communities.
And
And we
ourselves
have to
sometimes,
be that
right?
disruptive force. We have to be that disruptive voice and speak truth to power in even when it's very uncomfortable, even when it will alienate us from people that maybe could have been helpful for us in our life or from
And sometimes
opportunities.
that's lonely,
It
right?
is.
That's sometimes ostracizing, it's polarizing, it's vilifying. We talk about the repression campaigns, the character assassinations, the doxing, the deplatforming, the attempts to silence and intimidate.
The
I
firing.
mean,
People are getting fired. People are getting
right.
losing their jobs. People are being
When you think about
silenced.
Nelson Mandela, he was deemed a
Prison.
terrorist in this country, wasn't allowed in, and led the non-violent peace movement of South Africa, apartheid, and then the anti-apartheid movement. And then we had these same leaders that denounced him, condemned him, fighting to be at his funeral.
Again,
Like, just
embodiment of hypocrisy. Embodiment of it.
wild. Like, it's just kind of like we're in it, but you know what? Like you said, let's think about it. People are connecting the dots. People is thankfully that the masses of people is what is representative of humanity, and that's how we're going to be free. Not these systems of oppression. It's the masses of people. It's always been the masses of people that will continue to speak up and demand for freedom. Like I said, all empires are going to come down. So, like, and it is just, I just wanted to just say thank you. Like, I don't know, just so much gratitude. And like your followers, I love it. Like, I love that they're right there, people of conscious with you. Like, that's amazing. That warms my heart in this moment. And we're seeing this shift, right? We're seeing this shift in energy that like people are starting to really understand what's going on. The brainwashing you talked about, stop underestimating people, right? The systems need to stop underestimating the people.
Yeah, I think something that's also really important that we should talk about. I don't know how you feel about this, but I believe that this is spiritual warfare as much as it is a very real thing that's happening.
Absolutely.
And I truly believe that like words are spells. Words, when you speak over people, when you speak about things, the intentional denial of things, the intentional narrative that needs to be pushed. Even when you listen to the interviews, the script that the journalists are given, that they stick to without compromise, is it's a spell. It's an insistence. It's a continuing. It's a programming. It's a reminding you, this is when it started. This is when it started. But do you know that this is the real problem? But do you know that really this is the actual issue? Instead of making space for the nuance of the situation, instead of making space for the voice of the oppressed, there is a just complete and total monopoly over the narrative. And therefore, I believe that is spiritual because it is
100%.
our brains we're little computers, okay? And when you tell somebody something enough, or when they hear the same thing enough, they start to believe it. It becomes programmed into your subconscious mind. And that is like, if anybody who knows about the subconscious and shadow work and programming or deprogramming of beliefs, this is a vital part of healing, and a vital part of understanding the world around you is understanding and hacking your subconscious mind. And it is
that's the biggest tool that they use.
Yes.
Is messaging.
Yes.
And they're even using our messaging, our movement language.
Well, they do that. But they do it on purpose. They hijack that language when they realize that there's a certain language or phrase or slogan that unites people in a certain movement towards a certain common goal. They'll hijack that the same way that they did with Black Lives Matter, and they made it all lives matter. It's like, well, if all lives mattered, we wouldn't have to say that Black Lives mattered, dumbass.
And then when George Floyd was murdered, we had police officers taking a knee, using, local money to put Black Lives Matter on the streets. It's like, why, when white people tell us it's okay to take a knee, when white people tell us Black Lives Matter, or when white people say it's okay to defund the police, like, no, we need to be able to lead our movement. And the same thing that's happening now. For so long, Palestinians, they wanted Palestinians to be this victim, and then they want this perfect victim.
Oh, they
Like
always
they want to tell
want the
us
perfect
this,
victim.
yeah, this perfect victim. We see it with when
Yeah.
Black people are murdered by the state, and they're like, oh, but we do this thing where like he's educated, he's never been charged with anything. It's like doesn't matter what anyone did. No one deserves to be murdered by the state because you are a Black man. Palestinians don't deserve
Period.
to be
No one
displaced and
deserves,
murdered because
like,
they are Palestinian
I'm
fighting
sorry.
for their freedom.
Even us having to argue about
Mm-hmm.
state violence against civilians is insanity. No matter who they are, but especially they have very specific targets. And it is like we were talking about the act of genocide that is happening here on our own in our own lands. You know what I'm saying? Or not our lands, obviously, but like, in this land that we're in right now. It's like it's the same exact concept, and it is the same ancestor, if you will, of violence that is just reenacting and continuing business as usual, and will continue business as usual so long as we
Disrupt
so
the
long as we
status quo. So calls to actions, like you said, that people should not be walking around business as usual. Like if you're able to and willing, you got to be in solidarity. That's demanding ceasefire. Lauren did an amazing job yesterday with Dream Defenders and USCPR on how to dial up, how to contact your members of Congress, calling an end to genocide, making sure your members of Congress are voting no on the military funding that's going to come rolling through. And just like be there, show up. We protect us. Show up at protests, demonstrations, understanding that, telling people, hey, no ceasefire, no vote. People are done voting for the cleaner, dirty shirt.
Amen.
We're not going to vote for the cleaner, dirty shirt of who's going to continue to further genocide. It's not going to work out that way. So being present and knowing like your place in the movement, and this understanding silence is violence. Palestinians don't get to take a mental health break. They don't get to do any of that. This is something that there's urgency. And that's why, Lauren, there's so much love for you, someone like you that has such a large platform, and like you are dedicated to ensuring that you use like it for good and for justice in a way that's unapologetic and unafraid. And that is like what I like fell in love with you so deeply for. Like, yes, like cool, you're good on Palestine, but the way you are just so nonchalant about it is even another level. So I just appreciate and have so much gratitude and for you.
I have gratitude for you, man, your strength, and being able to have these conversations and be able to so eloquently educate us about your own fucking like reality. Because y'all, Russia is Palestinian, like, okay, so that like this is very real for her. It's not something that's like a fantasy figment thing that we can scroll past. This is like her family has been affected by this situation. That's why I'm so grateful that you were here to talk with us today, and help educate people. Thank you for taking the time. Also wanted to mention just something we can do. The BDS movement is really amazing to look into. Just understanding which companies are actively like using their money to send it to commit genocide and fund this stuff. Simple ones, McDonald's and Starbucks. Cut that shit. Like it's kind of big anyway.
I have my Cuban espresso like little
You
machine that is working just
Me
fine.
too.
You know?
Me too.
Like,
Let
I
me
make my
let me
cortados, my cortaditos at home
la
now.
cafetera, mira. Déjame enseñarte a ustedes para que tú sepas. So you guys know what you can do instead. I'm telling you, it's 10 times better, it's 10 times cheaper, okay, bitch?
Show me, because
You get yourself
like,
some café Bustelo.
Yes.
Exhibit A.
Better.
Exhibit A.
Much
And then
better
you get
than
yourself
Starbucks.
a cafetera.
Yes. Can you
I don't
come
know if
over
that's
one
what
day
it's
so we
called,
can make coffee?
but that's what I call it. Okay, this is your best friend. If you've never heard of
That's
her,
literally my love language.
Right
like
here.
I couldn't like. Woo.
Okay, we have
Do you know
options.
how to make it with like with the first 2 drops that come out? You put a little bit of the azúcar, the sugar, and you just do this little foam. Put up the layer on top.
You know what? I don't know that.
It's genocide free
because that's something you're gonna have to teach me. But it's like I'm Cuban, so it's kind of crazy that you would have to teach me that. But I appreciate that you would teach me. Cultural exchange, baby.
I got you. But I hope we can do more of these. We can even make it a series if you want.
Yes, I'm down.
We'll do like an Unbob Power Hour every week or something if you're up to it. But like, I just know that like there's so much love for you and appreciation and gratitude. And
Same for you, my love. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you guys. I hope that you left with your intention served. Oh yeah, I asked them in the beginning to set their intention for what they wanted from this live, from this opportunity to speak or to listen to us speak. LOL.
I
They're
mean,
blessed.
centering our intentions is so important always. Like
Exactly. Yes.
recalibrating, recentering, understanding how we're showing up in this world, why we're showing up in this world.
Yeah,
And
we're all alive right now, and we can all act like we're not active participants in the world that we are creating around us, and we can be passive and allow for what is to just be, or we can make the intentional choice to show up the way that you would want people to show up for you if it were you that was on the opposite end of this. Because that's the thing about these empires, they don't stop. There's not a person that they won't get to if they can. Okay, this is something that eventually will come for you or your neighbor or someone you love, and that is why it is important to be in solidarity with people. And being in solidarity does not mean you have to completely understand or agree, but it does mean that you have to witness with an honest, truthful lens. You have to witness the reality of what is happening to someone who is affected by you, whether you want to believe it or not, whether you want to agree or admit it or not. All of us affect one another. We are all connected to one another, whether we want to be or not. Okay? So
I
I
mean,
love,
we didn't
love you
get to
all.
talk about, well, maybe next time, but like you said, we were talking about yesterday, this lens of self that the American culture is, and not understanding that this is bigger than you as an individual. How you show up in this world is going to forever define who you are as a person, who you are as a community, how you are as a person of conscience. Like, it's quite easy and simple if we all were to just stand up for justice and push against injustice, we wouldn't be where we are today. It's the masses of people that have always freed us and will continue to push and free us. And again, so much love for you and thank you. I'm gonna go check on my organizer.
Yes, I hope that she's good. I hope everything works out well and that she's safe.
Yeah.
Sending a prayer to her. What was her name again?
Lamia.
Yeah.
Lamia. I'll keep you posted. I'll
Yes,
keep you
please.
posted. So
Yeah, let me know. I would love to know. All right. Thank you, Mama.
thank
Appreciate you.
you
Mwah.
so much, Lauren.
Bye.